Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
Our pleasure.
My question today is, my company is really challenging the current status quo within the AI industry by prioritizing transparency, explainability, and accountability. We're doing this in our product. So our technology is really designed from the ground up to be open and transparent about what sources are used to answer what question. And we've really cultivated a culture where ethical considerations are paramount. This allows us to generate precise responses to optimize adoption, minimize waste, and advocate for using AI to model the behaviors that we really value in humans, like attribution. Our goal is to disrupt the industry positively and transformationally without causing unnecessary harm or disruption. So, how do we as founders disrupt without interrupting?
Well, it's really obviously a balance because, some disrupt will always cause some interruption and some balance. But it's almost like you're trying to say the right target is this, and we're accelerating to the right target, even if that maybe deaccelerates to some other targets. But I think it's a great question, and I think it's also responsible because I think there's a bunch of AI services and, like medical assistants on phones and other kinds of things that are so important to get to in the future. And a lot of the people who are deaccelerationists are like, you can do a huge amount of good if you get there. So like, how do you get there, but get there safely? Great question. So I would say a couple things to kick it off and then hand it over to Rana. So one is thought leadership. So you basically want to get out there with like, here's what the target should be. Here's what we're doing. Here's what the industry should be doing. This is what the difference is between doing this the right way and the wrong way are. Another is essentially, how do you change the competition within the market field? E.g., is this something customers are demanding, investors are demanding, et cetera? Because our system naturally resorts that way. If you don't ultimately get into playing in the market, it becomes very hard. That's one of the things that regulation does. But regulation is, generally speaking, massively slows down innovation. So like if we can get it as a natural force, part of the market forces, it's substantially better. And then lastly, I think, one of the things to do as part of both the how do you benchmark to the market and also how do you do thought leadership is you have to, you could, by the way, use AI to help with the marketing, but like what's the kind of simple exposition, a slogan, a paragraph, a couple of words that then anchor around it. Because, it's like one of the reasons that I did blitzscaling was to kind of understand like, okay, that's what this is as a practice for how to operate. Anyway, so that would be kicking it off. But Rana, I'm going to hand over the mic.
I love the thought leadership because I think, especially for new technologies and new categories, you want to kind of evangelize it and bring it to life. And sometimes just creating examples and showing the world what this looks like is really important. So I love that. I would say, and I know, Beth, you have a background in data science and you've been leading massive teams and solutions around the importance of not just the quantity of the data, but the quality of the data and ensuring and mitigating data and algorithmic bias. So kind of being intentional about your data and where it comes from and how you store it and how you use it and leverage it for training and validation is really key. And the only way to do that is by ensuring that your team is diverse. So, and I know that that's something you're very passionate about. And you in your book, AI for the Rest of Us, you talk about that very passionately. So I think kind of prioritizing diversity and inclusion is going to be key.
And say a little bit about like kind of the waste part that you're working on, because I got all of the kind of like transparency and safety parts of it, but what's the particular set of questions that the industry and developers should be thinking around the waste side?
Really, growing up as an engineer, and I do look at AI as an engineering problem fundamentally, and BastAI shows its work. Slogan. And really, in order to show your work, you need to sanitize your inputs. So if you really want to be able to have predictable, deterministic outputs, you need to make sure that your inputs are very good. So when we are creating our product, we also have the platform that allows you to take the end user feedback, not just thumbs up, thumbs down, to really take that and say, okay, well, this person asked this question, then they got this answer, then they asked a follow-up question. Take that data and do conversational analysis, and then feed that data back in. So you need a platform. You need to be able to run, data pipelines over, distributed Kubernetes clusters. You need to understand the architecture and the efficiency of doing that. And I think that, the ability, and we've really been pushing the limits of this, where we have our conversational AI that can run without internet connectivity, because we're using a registry system as opposed to a database system that you have to access on a cloud. So it's very possible to make, small, very precise models that can bridge that access gap, and that don't need to use large amounts of compute and large volumes of data in order to make a huge difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, no, great. And for our audience, if you don't know what distributed Kubernetes is, ask AI. But with that, thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
This is Masters of Scale.
Hey, bye.